the center is set to take action against Justice Yashwant Verma, in whose house, shockingly, piles and piles of cash have been found during a fire accident. In fact, the center, it is in fact gathering the signatures and gathering the support in order to start the impeachment process of Justice Yashwant Verma, who has been transferred from the Delhi High Court to the Allahabad High Court. And the Supreme Court also has given a direction to the Allahabad High Court Chief Justice not to assign any judicial work to Yashwant Verma. And this is going to be the first impeachment motion if it is successfully finished by the Parliament. And if you look at the impeachment motion procedure, what has been said is in the Judges Inquiry Act of 1968, the impeachment procedure of the High Court or Supreme Court judge has been set up. And according to it, first and foremost, for a motion to impeach the High Court or Supreme Court judge should be supported by at least 100 members in Lok Sabha or by 50 members in Rajya Sabha in order for it to be considered by the presiding officer of the House. And the presiding officer of the House, that is either the Speaker of Lok Sabha or the Chairman of Rajya Sabha, after the motion has been passed, he can either accept the motion or deny the motion. If he accepts the motion or if he admits the motion, immediately he will set up a 3-member committee constituting the Chief Justice of India, High Court Chief Justice, and along with that a distinguished jurist in order to investigate and submit report in 3 months. And once the report has been submitted, if the inquiry committee has found the person guilty of the said charges, then there will be a voting which would be done in the Parliament. If there is no, or if the case or the charge against him has been proved to be false, then immediately the charges would be dropped. And if the investigation committee, if it submits its report and finds the said person guilty of the charges, then in both the houses, a majority of total membership and 2/3 of the majority members present and voting should support the impeachment bill. And once the impeachment bill is passed by the Parliament, it has to go to the President and it should get the presidential assent, and then only the High Court and Supreme Court judge can be removed. This is a very long process, and earlier also once there was an attempt made to remove a Supreme Court judge by the name of Justice V. Ramaswamy, but this procedure, because of its elongated procedure and complexity of being passed in the Parliament, what happened is Justice V. Ramaswamy, the procedure of impeachment was dropped in between itself and he was not impeached. Then over and above this, any impeachment charge against any sitting High Court or Supreme Court judge can be started only on the basis of proved misbehavior or incapacity. And in this case, most probably the charge would be proved misbehavior. So this way, on Justice Yashwant Verma, the Parliament is supposed to take some action. And the Parliament is the only agency which can take action against the Supreme Court and High Court judges. And in order to protect the independence of the Supreme Court and High Court, deliberately the procedure for removal of the Supreme Court or High Court judge has been made very, very difficult. The current 14th Dalai Lama of Tibet is celebrating his 90th birthday. And as part of the 90th birthday celebration, he has made a clear indication that there would be the selection and appointment of the next Dalai Lama who is going to succeed him. In fact, in the Dalai Lamas, there is a tradition of determining the successor immediately after the death of the Dalai Lama. In fact, in the Tibetan form of Buddhism, the Dalai Lama is an institution which has continued in an unbroken chain from the year 1411 to till date. It is still continuing. And the current Dalai Lama, who is selected in the year 1935 as a 2-year-old kid in order to be the next Dalai Lama, is reaching his 90th year. Now the issue of succession has come out into the open, and the Dalai Lama has very clearly stated that the Dalai Lama's selection and his appointment would be solely the prerogative of a trust which is called as Garden Podrong Trust. And the Garden Podrong Trust is going to determine who the next Dalai Lama is going to be. And the Dalai Lama also has directed back in 2021 itself that the next Dalai Lama will be born in the free world but not in China. But this statement of Dalai Lama immediately made the Chinese government angry. Primarily because according to a 2007 law which has been passed in Tibet by the Chinese government, in fact the Chinese government has occupied the Tibet region in 1950s, And now in 2007, they have passed a law saying that whoever is appointed as the next Dalai Lama, he has to be approved by the Chinese government. But this provision of approval, the Dalai Lama claims to be an interference into the religious freedom of the Tibetan people. And even the Tibetan people are also unhappy with the interference of the Chinese government in the holy institution of Dalai Lama. Definitely, it is a matter of religious freedom, which should be best left to the Dalai Lama. But the Chinese government, it thinks otherwise. In fact, it has found an historical precedent wherein during the time of the Qing dynasty, what used to happen is, Qing dynasty is a ruling dynasty in China. What used to happen is, for whenever the issue of the selection of the next Dalai Lama used to come, the High Lamas are used to select the next Dalai Lama on the basis of a pick from a golden urn. And the Chinese government is saying that from then on, there is the Chinese government control over who is going to be appointed as the next Dalai Lama. But the Dalai Lama is saying that no, this is not correct. This is our religious freedom and we are going to exercise it. And in the meanwhile, the Indian government, particularly the Minister of Minority Affairs, who is himself a Tibetan Buddhist or practicing Tibetan or Vajrayana Buddhist by the name of Kiran Rijiju, he has stated very clearly that the Indian government's stand is that the Dalai Lama is the sole authority to determine the next Dalai Lama, which stands in sharp contrast with the Chinese stance. And along with that, the Indian government has very clearly stated that the Dalai Lama has to have the final say in the appointment of his successor. So on this issue, there is definitely the Indian and Chinese governments are going to be on loggerheads. And because of this loggerheads, okay, maybe the Tibetan issue will again come to the forefront. And let's see what is going to happen in the future. We know that Delhi is one of the most polluted cities in the world. And in fact, one of the contributory factor for the pollution of Delhi is, in fact, because of excessive vehicle load on the streets of Delhi. That too, particularly a category of vehicles which are called as end-of-life vehicles. These are the vehicles which are older than 50 years in case of petroleum vehicles and older than 10 years in case of diesel vehicles. And these vehicles have caused substantial damage to the pollution of Delhi is the observation made by the Commission for Air Quality Management in NCR and adjoining regions, which is a special commission established by the Delhi government. And this 𝐃𝐸𝐾𝐚, it has given a direction to petrol pumps and the Delhi government saying that all the end-of-life vehicles, which are called in short as ELVs, should be denied petroleum in the petrol bunk. And along with that, based on automatic number plate registration system, the government should start impounding the vehicles which are end-of-life vehicles. But is this the solution for the problem of excessive pollution? Is this the only factor contributing to the pollution of Delhi? In fact, there are many more issues which contribute to the pollution of Delhi, ranging from excessive and concentrated industrialization, stubble burning, okay, winter climate. All of these things contribute equally to the pollution of Delhi. Now, the direction which has been given by the 𝐃𝐸𝐾𝐚, it is going to cause a huge damage to the public. Primarily, if you understand this, whenever we buy a car or a vehicle, usually we pay nearly 30% of the car's value as a government tax. Now, after bringing the vehicle and maintaining it in a very good condition, even after 10 years also, the diesel vehicle might be less polluting. Or it differs from vehicle to vehicle how much pollutants it is emitting. It depends on engine quality, the maintenance, the number of kilometers that the vehicle has gone so far. So without considering all of these things, the 𝐃𝐸𝐾𝐚 giving this decision led to a huge public backlash, primarily because many people also, apart from having the vehicles for the purpose of commutation, also have a lot of emotional attachment to the vehicles. For someone, the vehicle might have been gifted by their father, by their mother, okay, or some or the other emotional value is attached to vehicles in India. And this blanket ban on all end-of-life vehicles without considering their quality and condition is something which is excessive punishment to the public. Then, along with that, one more important thing is the NCR region is a congregation of nearly 5 districts, which are Gurugram, Faridabad, Ghaziabad, Gautam Buddha Nagar, and Sonipat. And in all of these districts also, the 𝐃𝐸𝐾𝐚 has asked the petrol bunks not to give petrol from July 1st. But the NCR region is surrounded by numerous other states like Haryana is there, Uttar Pradesh is there. So in these states, how are you going to regulate getting the petrol from these states? So the people of Delhi will go out of the city, get a full tank of petrol and then come back into Delhi. Then how are you going to implement this regulation is the question which has been raised by the public. And finally, the Delhi government has taken a bow and it in fact directed the 𝐃𝐸𝐾𝐚 to withdraw its direction in order to impound the vehicles. So let's try to find out a better mechanism in order to control the pollution of Delhi rather than penalizing the public who have paid taxes in order to buy the vehicle. And 10 to 15 years is a very short time for a vehicle whose condition is very good. Plastic, earlier thought to be an inert pollutant which doesn't directly interfere with the human health, is increasingly being proved to be very dangerous to human health. Earlier, the plastic waste is considered to only choke the oceans and clog the landfills. But now we have realized that the plastic doesn't stay outside of the human body in the form of microplastic and endocrine disrupting chemicals, that is EDCs. It is entering into the human body in large scale and it is causing numerous adverse health impacts on people. In fact, a study conducted by international agencies has proven very clearly that the plastics or the microplastics which enter into our body and the EDC chemicals which enter into our body through plastic, they have the effect of hormonal system interference. They also create metabolic disorders in human beings. They damage the reproductive health of human beings, and along with that, they increase the susceptibility of human beings to the chronic diseases, including cancer. And along with that, they also, in fact, disrupt the genetic expression of the people or the genes. And along with that, they also cause in extreme cases this problem which is called as apoptosis, that is nothing but the cell death. And it is also linked to increasing oxidative stress, which is leading to early aging among human beings. Of late, we have seen on multiple occasions that people are facing the problem of reproductive health, wherein the men and women are not able to conceive their next generation. The primary reason for this, as suggested by the international studies, is the plastic, which earlier was considered to be an inert pollutant. Right now, in nearly 89% of the blood samples which have been collected in India, the microplastics are present, and along with that, they also entered into the lungs, heart, placenta, breast milk. Even the milk which is being fed to the children also contains elements of microplastic, which makes us understand the kind of disastrous impact that microplastics are having on human health. Then along with that, the EDCs, that is endocrine disrupting chemicals like bisphenol A, BPS, that is bisphenol S, then phthalates, then along with that polyfluoroalkyl substances, they are having an enormous adverse impact on human health. Particularly these kind of chemicals are entering into the human body because of drinking of packaged drinking water, which is stored in plastic bottles. Then along with that, the plastic is also being used for the sake of cooking food in a microwave that in fact integrates the microplastics into the food particles. Then along with that, the third major aspect is there is also consumption of microplastics primarily through air, through water, through food, through multiple means people are consuming the microplastics and they are causing a disastrous impact on human being. And the solution for this problem is there is a need for segregation, there is a need for recycling, and there is a need for safe disposal, and at the same time quick-paced research in order to find biodegradable alternatives which are non-toxic materials for the sake of human usage is very, very important. And in the health risks of plastic, one important factor that we need to remember is in India, the world's largest plastic waste is produced, which stands at nearly 9.3 million tons. And despite of the waste management rules of 2024, the plastic waste, it doesn't seem to, in fact, diminish in India. That is the reason why every person should act responsibly, deny plastic, carry jute bags or cloth bags to wherever they go, so that the overall plastic impact on India is going to get reduced. Thank you.